What's up, youth? Hey, welcome back for another session. All right, and as you can see today, we are filming in my kitchen. Oh yeah, bringing it to you live from the Kiger house. Okay, now with this, I'm gonna start off the video by showing you a picture. All right, so check out this picture. Okay, what do you see? Kind of weird, kind of like, Sam, what the heck is this? These are two water crystals. The one on the left is a picture of a water crystal from a polluted river. The one on the right is a picture from a water crystal that is from a clean freshwater lake that is in the Amazon rainforest that has been untouched by mankind, untouched by human hands. And so if you look at those two water crystals, you're like, Sam, what in the world? Okay, what does this have to do with Jesus? What does this have to do with the Bible? What does this have to do with anything? And you're losing me. Promise you it's going to make sense. Now that I've got your attention, I want to talk to you about this dude. And no, this dude isn't from the Bible, but he's a pretty rad dude. His name is Dr. Emoto. And so what he did, he believed he was a Japanese businessman that discovered something really, really cool about our words and about the power of our words and the effect that our words have. And so he kind of became a scientist. He studied water crystals and he studied the effect that our words had on the formation of water crystals. And so those pictures, like I told you, were an example of what those crystals would look like. The one on the left was what a crystal or lack thereof would look like in a polluted, dirty, unhealthy environment. The one on the right was a picture of a crystal that was a crystal and formed, and you could see it, and it was outlined and silhouetted and perfect because of the habitat and because of the way that it flourished and what was around it. Now, Dr. Emoto saw that and he wanted to take that a step further, and so he did this experiment. Okay, now come with me and we're gonna kind of do a little speed through of this experiment. Okay, so we're gonna fill up these two glasses with water, and that's what he did. All right, so we got our two glasses of water. Now, what this dude, Dr. Emoto, believed was that you could speak life over things, and your power of your words, the power in your words, would determine whether something or not would actually die or grow into the crystallization of water like the water did, and grow into its full being, what it was created and designed to do. And so how he did this, he took two glasses of water and he covered them, just like that. Right, so we got our two glasses of water, covered them. Okay, and the two different experiments that this dude did, okay? One experiment he did, he'd have these two glasses of water sitting in the same environment, and every single day he'd come up to one glass and he'd speak hateful things over the glass. He'd say things like, you're dumb, you're ugly, you're stupid, or he'd even use names of people in history who had negative effects. He'd call it Hitler or Joseph Stalin. And then over time, doing that and saying those same hurtful or ugly things day after day, he'd record what would happen to the water crystals. Okay, then with the other glass of water, what he would do, he'd say things that were affirming, things that were positive. You're beautiful, you're loved, you have a future, you are the absolutely most beautiful thing in the world, I love you. And then he would take pictures of that water crystal and see what would happen to him. Okay, another way that he did this, he would take cards. And on one card, okay, he'd say things like, you're dumb, stupid, ugly, and he'd stick it on the glass of water. And he'd repeat those over the water day after day after day after day. And the same thing with the other one. You're beautiful, you have a future, you are loved, and he'd stick that on the water, and he'd record the picture of the water crystals, or lack thereof, day after day after day. And what he found, if you check out these pictures, the crystals that were spoken hatred over, and words that were disgusting and demeaning, the crystals didn't form. The one that was affirmed and spoken love over, beautiful crystals. They almost look like snowflakes. And so that right there, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our topic, the power of your words. Okay, now, James says it best, and in James 3:3-5, he talks about the power of our words, and he talks about our tongue. And in it, he talks about two big things, a horse and a ship, and he kind of compares our words to those two things. Now, if you know anything about a horse and riding a horse, you know that they usually have a bit in their mouth, and that's what the rider uses to steer the horse. And then when James talked about ships, he talked about the small rudder on the back of a ship. Right, now think about a huge cruise ship, right? Those things are massive, or a cargo ship, massive. But what James said was extremely important. That small bit in the horse's mouth was what controlled him. That small rudder on the back of that ship was what controlled that ship. And just like those two things, this little muscle in our mouth controls a lot of things in our life. And it can be very good or it can be very disastrous. James goes on to say that the power of our words and the power of your tongue can be evil and corrupt the whole body. What, Sam? Corrupt the whole body? Yeah, he says it. James says it flat out. Go check it out for yourself. Okay, now that kind of seems like, a Debbie Downer. But I promise you there's hope and it gets better, but I'm gonna leave you hanging and we're gonna talk about that in session 2. So, join me back on session 2 on Thursday. Peace.